Cloud, and today I'm going to read Arnie the Donut, written and illustrated by Laurie Keller. Arnie turned out to be just the kind of donut he'd hoped he'd be. Chocolate covered with bright coloured candy sprinkles.
Look at all my sprinkles! There must be 1,000,000 of them!
Actually, there were only 135, but I'm not going to spoil it for him.
He was made very early in the morning at the downtown bakery, home of the best donuts around.
Around! Get it?
Arnie was proud to be one of the best. He knew that people all over town made special trips to his bakery to buy donuts of their very own. As Arnie sat on the tray, which had just been placed on the donut case, he took a moment to reflect on the amazing things that had happened to him that morning. 1. Cut into rings. 2. Deep fried.
I'm soaking in boiling grease, but I love it!
3. Cooled.
Your drink, sir?
Thank
you.
4. Iced.
Who's that handsome donut? That's me.
5. Sprinkled.
Caution, sprinkle area. Must wear safety goggles.
6. Named.
Whatever I named, I'm going to go by Cool Iced Tea.
Arnie looked around and saw all sorts of donuts sitting nearby.
A cinnamon twist. Donut balls.
Chocolate zebra.
Square powdered.
Long John
Bear claw.
Various muffins.
I'm a muffin.
I'm a different kind of muffin.
He tried to strike up a conversation with an apple fritter on the next tray over, but she didn't seem to want to talk.
It is rather early. Maybe she's not a morning donut.
Arnie supposed. It was 6 a.m. and the baker had just hung the open sign in the window. Arnie was fascinated as he watched the customers stream into the bakery. One by one, donuts were chosen, placed in paper bags and whisked away with their new owners. Some went by the dozen in giant boxes.
Goodbye!
Arnie yelled to each donut.
Have a great trip! This is so exciting! I wonder who will choose me!
Just then, Arnie looked up and saw a man pointing right at him.
What?
Before he could say another word, he was pulled from the tray and placed in a paper bag of his very own.
Thank you, Mr. Bing. Have a nice day.
Arnie heard the baker say to the man.
Mr. Bing, that's a fine name.
Arnie decided.
I can hardly wait to meet him.
Goodbye, Arnie. We'll miss you.
I should have talked to him while I had the chance.
The ride to Mr. Bing's apartment was a little bumpy. Arnie was grateful for the soft napkin the baker had so thoughtfully placed underneath him in the bag. He'd never ridden a car before, and he wished he could look out the window to see all the sights. But more than anything, he wished he could meet Mr. Bing.
Why does he keep me in this bag?
Arnie wondered. Finally, the car came to a stop, and they were home. Mr. Bing carefully removed Arnie from his paper bag and placed him on a clean, shiny plate.
What a handsome plate!
Arnie said to himself.
I'm not crazy about the design. I prefer a more modern one.
No.
Mr. Bing gently lifted Arnie from his new plate.
Isn't that cute?
Thought Arnie, as he closed his eyes and smiled.
He wants to hold me.
As Arnie relaxed in Mr. Bing's hand, he felt himself moving higher and higher away from his plate. When he opened his eyes to see where he was going, he discovered that he was headed straight for Mr. Bing's open mouth.
What are you doing?
Shouted Arnie. Mr. Bing was stunned. He dropped Arnie back onto the plate.
I was going to eat you,
he replied in shock.
Eat me?
Arnie shrieked, his sprinkles flying everywhere.
Why would you do a thing like that? Do you make a habit of eating all of your house guests?
No, of course not.
So why then would it suddenly occur to you to eat me?
Arnie demanded.
Well, because you're a donut. That's what donuts are for, to eat.
Do you mean to tell me you've done this before?
Yes, I eat a donut every day,
Mr. Bing said sheepishly. Arnie froze. He felt sick, frightened.
I better get out of here before he tries to eat me again.
And angry.
My friends, they've probably all been eaten.
He thought to himself for a moment.
I must put a stop to this right away. I'll call the bakery and warn the others. Whoever's left, that is.
Arnie knew that there was no time to waste, and that he needed to be very sneaky in order to keep his plan from Mr. Bing. He turned to Mr. Bing and said in his sweetest voice,
Excuse me, sir, but I don't believe we've been properly introduced. My name is Arnie.
Hello? Arnie,
Mr. Bing stammered.
I'm Mr. Bing. It's nice to eat you. I mean, to meet you.
Mr. Bing, would you be a dear and allow me to use your telephone?
Arnie asked, extra politely.
Oh, well, okay.
Said Mr. Bing, and he handed Arnie the phone. As quickly as he could, Arnie dialed the number of the bakery.
Downtown Bakery, home of the...
Mr. Bakerman!
Arnie frantically whispered.
This is Arnie the Donut. Do you remember me? You made me at 5:15 this morning, and I was bought about 20 minutes ago by a man who goes by the name of Mr. Bing.
Yes, Arnie.
The baker answered.
What can I do for you?
Now, I don't want to alarm you, but just moments ago that man tried to eat me! And not only that, he claims to have eaten hundreds of us. I'm going to make a run for it, but I wanted to warn you so that if you see him coming into the bakery again, you can stop him.
Really?
Oh, my. Arnie, I thought you understood. That's why I make donuts, for people to eat.
I can't believe it!
Arnie gasped.
Are the other donuts aware of this arrangement?
Well, I think so,
The baker said.
Let me ask them to make sure.
The baker yelled to the other donuts.
Do you donuts know that you're going to be eaten?
Yeah, we know.
The donut shouted back.
We're delicious. I won't blame them.
Did you hear that, Arnie?
The baker asked. Arnie was crushed. The phone dropped from his hand. He'd heard all he needed to hear. Arnie forgot all about his plan to escape. He collapsed back onto the plate, glanced up at Mr. Bing and muttered,
All right, then. Let's get this over with. Go ahead and eat me.
Mr. Bing gazed down at Arnie.
I'm not going to eat you, Arnie,
He said reassuringly.
I just wouldn't feel right about it now.
Really?
Arnie said with a huge sigh of relief.
Well, I'm glad to see that you've come to your senses.
But since I'm not going to eat you,
Mr. Bing continued,
I'll have to figure out something else to do with you. I've paid good money for you, and I don't want to be wasteful.
Of course not.
Arnie agreed.
What we need to do is each make a list of things I can do with you instead of eating you. Between the two of us, I know we'll come up with something.
Good plan, Mr. Bing.
Arnie said.
This will be a breeze. I bet I'm good at lots of stuff.
They both feverishly wrote down their ideas. When they were finished, Mr. Bing asked,
Would you like to read yours first?
Sure thing, Mr. Bing.
Arnie answered.
Things Mr. Bing can do with me instead of eating me. Do you need a ballroom dance partner?
No, I don't dance.
You could use a personal fitness trainer.
I'd get too sweaty.
How about a portrait painter?
Oh, heavens, no.
Would you like me to entertain you at parties? Do not make my brown eyes blue.
I don't like throwing parties.
I could be your chauffeur.
But you can't see over the steering wheel.
I'd make a great bodyguard.
Who could you protect me from? A cookie?
All righty, Mr. Bing. Let's hear what you came up with.
Okie dokie, he replied. I just know you'll like some of these. Things I can do with Arnie instead of eating him. I could use you as a pincushion.
Ooh, too painful.
How about an air freshener for my car?
How about not?
Would you like to be a picture frame?
I can't imagine so.
I need a new bowling ball.
Well, don't look at me.
You'd make a fine paperweight.
Boring.
What about a doorstop?
Try again.
But there was nothing else on Mr. Bing's list. They were both completely out of ideas. Arnie and Mr. Bing were exhausted. They felt terribly disappointed. After a few minutes of awkward silence, Mr. Bing finally spoke.
I'm sorry, Arnie, but it's clear that we can't agree on anything for you to do around here. This is difficult for me to say, but I think it would be best if you found another home.
I know,
said Arnie, fighting back tears.
I'll just be on my way then. Is it all right if I keep this napkin to pack up my loose sprinkles?
Of course,
Mr. Bing replied sadly.
As soon as I get a job, I'll pay you back the money you've spent on me.
that's not necessary, Arnie.
Arnie shook Mr. Bing's hand and thanked him for his kindness. Mr. Bing opened the door, and as Arnie left, he paused and said,
I mean, like from the
I guess
bed.
donuts
in the bed.
really are only good for
So
eating.
just in case if I,
They both waved
Run out of
goodbye,
battery?
and Arnie was gone.
No, like
Mr.
just
Bing
in case
stood
in
at the
future
window
I want to read a
and
book.
watched as Arnie walked away. He walked past the flower
Why did you do that?
the mailbox,
Why you do that?
and the apartment manager's
I'll make you part of this instead.
Is there anything worse than a sad pastry?
He passed the tennis court,
Is that a donut?
the swimming pool,
Yeah, whatever.
and the clubhouse. Oh my God, is that a donut? But when Arnie reached the "No Dogs Allowed" sign at the end of the driveway, Mr. Bing suddenly came up with a new idea.
Arnie, wait up! Arnie!
Yelled Mr. Bing as he ran after him. Arnie turned back and stopped. When Mr. Bing caught up with him, he was out of breath.
I can't believe I didn't think of this earlier.
Mr. Bing panted.
Arnie, I've always wanted a dog. Keep talking, big guy. And could never have one because they're not allowed here. But there's no sign that says no donuts allowed.
Why does he keep on
Arnie
following?
perked up when he realized what Mr. Bing was thinking.
Would you like to take walks and play fetch?
Mr. Bing asked excitedly.
You bet I would.
Can you do tricks like rolling over?
Rolling over? Look at me. I was made for rolling over.
Well then, there's only one thing left to ask. Arnie, will you be my donut dog?
Oh, Mr. Bing, I would love to be your donut dog.
From that moment on, Arnie and Mr. Bing were inseparable. Arnie liked being a donut dog even better than he liked being a donut.
Arf! Arf! Arf!
He went through a short phase of chewing on furniture and barking at the mailman, but after a crash course in obedience school, he graduated first in his class. Everywhere the two of them went, people would stop to pet Arnie. No one had ever seen a donut dog before. Oh, what a darling man.
What a darling dog!
Arnie and Mr. Bing had so much fun together. Arnie was the best pet Mr. Bing could ever have hoped for, and Mr. Bing was Arnie's best friend. The end.
Welcome to Storyline Online, brought to you by the SAG AFTRA Foundation. I'm Lonnie Chavis.
I'm Mackenzie Hansack. And I'm Parker Bates. And today we're going to read
If
I Ran for President, written by Catherine Steyer and illustrated by Lan Avril Kravitz.
It will be great to run for President of the United States. If I ran for President, I'd hope the people of the United States would choose me for a very important job. The job of leading our country. And I'd hope to follow in the footsteps of past presidents, such as George Washington, our first president, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln. I'd have to think carefully about my decision to run for president. I want to know how my family felt about it too. Then I'd ask myself, am I the best person for the job? Am I ready to work very, very, very hard for my country? Do lots of people believe in me? And will they help me run for office? If I could answer yes to all those questions, then I'd declare my candidacy. That means I'd announce I was interested in the job of President of the United States. If I ran for president, I'd run a campaign to let voters learn all about me. People who thought I would be a good president would donate money or time and help. I'd hire people to work on my campaign too. Campaigns can make a candidate famous. Soon my name or face would appear on signs, buttons, bumper stickers, and t-shirts. I'd even star in television commercials.
If I run for president, I'd work with my political party. That's a group of people who share the same beliefs about how the country should be governed. They support candidates who uphold these ideas. The two major parties are the Democratic Party, their symbol is a donkey, and the Republican Party, their symbol is an elephant. There are other parties too, called third parties. But people besides me would want to be president. Republican and Democratic parties must choose whom they support in the election. In some states, like Iowa, the parties each hold meetings called caucuses that sometimes sounds like caucuses, where members pick their favorite candidate. In most states, party members hold an election called a primary. Caucuses and primaries show which candidates are popular with voters and who might have the best chance of being elected president. The first primary is held in New Hampshire in the winter before the presidential election. I'd be sure to visit there, but I'd have to bundle up. In the summer before the election, the political parties announce their candidate for president. The major parties make this announcement at meetings called conventions. Each state sends delegates to the convention. Delegates vote for the candidate who was most popular in their state. A convention looks like a big celebration full of cheering and chanting, balloons and confetti. Millions of Americans watch the excitement on TV. By the time of the convention, everyone usually knows which candidate will be chosen, but the delegates still hold a vote. If my party chose me to run for president, I'd make a speech to get everyone excited about helping me win. I tell the American people about my platform, my plans and ideas for our country. My running mate would make a speech too. That's the person who would be my vice president if I became president.
If I ran for president, I'd be invited to debate with other presidential candidates. A person called a moderator would ask us questions. People across the country would listen carefully to our answers. Reporters would ask me questions too, about my life, my family.
I keep on
Even
peeing in my
hidden
pants,
facts.
kinda.
They'd print old photographs of me in newspapers and magazines, like the snapshot of me in my superhero costume, or my baby picture when I still wore diapers. If I ran for president, I would travel the country to meet lots of people. I'd have my own campaign bus or airplane to take me from place to place. Inside, there'd be comfy seats, perfect for checking out the news, writing speeches, and thinking about how to solve the nation's problems. I'd take naps too. I need the extra rest. I'd work hard and be very busy. All in 1 week, I might share cereal with kindergartners in California, crunch corn with farmers in Kansas, and have dinner in Delaware, where I'd order the Blue Plate special with an apple pie and a large strawberry milkshake. After all that food, I might not feel too well. Still, I'd have to smile and talk with the people I met. Presidential candidates make lots of speeches, shake hands, and cuddle babies.
Finally, in November, Election Day would arrive. If I ran for president, I'd be nervous and excited. On Election Day, millions of voters from across the country go to their polling places to cast their ballots. That's another way to say that.
Welcome to Storyline Online, brought to you by the SAG-AFTRA Foundation. I'm Sarah Silverman, and today I'm going to read A Tale of Two Beasts, written and illustrated by Fiona Robertson. I was walking home from Grandma's house through the deep, dark woods when I spied a strange little beast. Feet, 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 feet. He was stuck up a tree and whining sadly. So I decided to
Sao con đái là
rescue
thay
him.
quần?
Feet.
Kệ con đái ướt quần hả?
I will call you Fang, I
My
told
God,
him.
man.
And I started
Gái vậy.